Welcome back to the ScreenCrush Break Room. I'm Ryan Arey, and this is all of the Easter eggs, references, and little things that you might have missed in What If Episode 4. Damn. I actually had to sit and watch through the credits just to process this episode. Easily my favorite of the series so far and the most emotional. It returns most of the core cast of the Doctor Strange franchise, including Benedict Cumberbatch and Wong, Tilda Swinton, and Rachel McAdams, and that really lends to the weight of this episode. So the first divergence in this reality is actually here.
I'm talking tonight at a neurological society dinner. Come with me.
Another speaking engagement? So romantic.
It's when Christine turns down Strange's invitation to go to his speaking engagement, an invitation that she actually accepted in this episode. You might have noticed that there were two Christines in the credits. The other is Christine Everhart, who first appeared in Iron Man.
And what do you say to your other nickname, the Merchant of Death?
That's not bad.
And later in WHIH social videos leading up to Ant-Man and Civil War. And she's still reporting for WHIH in this episode. On the way, she says he performed a successful hemispherectomy. This is an extremely rare procedure usually performed on children, where the two hemispheres of the brain are separated to treat epilepsy. But it's not just a random choice of a brain procedure. This also symbolizes what the Ancient One does to Strange when she splits him into two different timelines. The accident is recreated nearly perfectly frame by frame. After the events of the movie play out, Wong tells Strange that he's worried he'll do something dumb.
I suggest you join me before you do something reckless.
As we saw in the No Way Home trailer, Wong's grown into Steven's babysitter, constantly warning him against pushing the limits of sorcery too far.
Don't cast that spell.
Now during the drive, Christine name-checks The Price is Right, the decades-old game show that Aaron Paul from Breaking Bad once starred on as a guest.
You're the man, Bob!
That's not an Easter egg, I just love that fact. Another celebrity guest on The Price is Right can be seen here, and that's your mom. So Strange seeks out Alessandro Cagliostro, a real-life charlatan who weaseled his way into royal courts by claiming he had magic abilities. But Cagliostro's legend grew until in fiction he became a time-traveling sorcerer. And he's also in Marvel Comics as a long-lived sorcerer who uses vampire blood to maintain his immortality. More on that in a bit. Strange finds out that no matter what he does, he cannot save Christine, kind of like the homeless guy in Groundhog Day. It turns out that in this reality, her death is an absolute point in time, an event so important that it cannot be changed. Okay, so back up. If you watch this channel and our coverage of Endgame and Loki, then you know that every time someone travels back in time and changes something, it creates a branch in time, a new reality, like the Ancient One said.
Remove one of the stones, and that close splits.
But this is different, because this is Strange using the Time Stone to reverse time, much like Thanos did in Infinity War and Strange did with the Apple. So this would not create a new timeline. The problem is, if he did change this event, then he would not become the Sorcerer Supreme, and thus would be unable to change the event, creating a time paradox.
That would unravel the very fabric of the space-time continuum and destroy the entire universe!
Whereas, if he had time travel technology like the quantum tunnel or the temp pads we saw in Loki, then he could go back in time, save Christine, and create a branch in the timeline, where she never died. So this actually reveals a huge limitation of the Time Stone. Its abilities cannot affect the multiverse. As we saw in Loki, the forces that govern the multiverse are greater than the Infinity Stones.
Some of the guys use them as paperweights.
So look back and think about when Strange looked into the future and saw 14 million possible outcomes. He was not seeing 14 million possible timelines or 14 million possible realities. He was seeing possible outcomes contained within his own timeline. It's also interesting because Thanos' snap sent the Avengers back in time, which resulted in Loki stealing the Tesseract and the death of He Who Remains, all events that were scripted to happen.
See?
So you can even say that Thanos' snap was another absolute point in time that Strange could not have rewritten with the Time Stone. In fact, maybe Strange tried to rewrite the snap over and over and ended up with the same results that we saw in this episode. This show is so great because it has a very relatable premise. Everyone has looked back at their life and wondered, what if? See, I look back and wonder, what if I learned an instrument when I was younger, or learned how to paint? But today, we don't have to ask what if. We have endless opportunities to challenge ourselves and learn new skills. That's why I joined Skillshare, the sponsor of this video. See, I've spent the last few years working on a novel, but I really don't know much about the world of publishing or really anything about writing a novel. So I started Skillshare classes to help me hone my novel and walk me through self-publishing, just in case, it's not very good. And these are just a few of the thousands of classes they offer for creative people like us for less than $10 a month with an annual subscription. See, maybe you want to do what I do and make YouTube videos, and you want to fill your videos with slick motion graphics. There are classes waiting for you. Or maybe you're already an artist and you want to learn how to sell your work freelance. Then you can join one of Skillshare's many business classes. Plus, they're always launching new premium classes, so there really is something for everyone. The site is here for you to learn, so there are no ads. This helps you stay focused and follow your own creative voice. So the first 1,000 of our subscribers who click the link in the description will get a free trial of a premium membership so you can explore your creativity. Okay, so Strange shows up at Cagliostro's house where he encounters magic runes guarding the place. Remember the significance of runes that we learned in WandaVision.
Only the witch that casts the runes can use her magic.
And what we see in this episode is that the runes bind Strange here, and then later the Ancient One uses them to protect good Strange from his evil doppelganger. So when he lands, the dirt on his chest is symbolic of the metaphorical wound that he receives. What if Doctor Strange lost his heart instead of his hands? Then he meets the librarian, Oben.
Please tell me you're not Cagliostro.
The name's Obeng.
In the comics, guess what? Cagliostro's other name was Oben. So there's a strong possibility that this is indeed the time-traveling sorcerer who drinks vampire blood to stay young, which explains why later on he says he's watched Strange do this for centuries. In the library, Strange finds a copy of the Cagliostro's Book of Time with the same cover that we saw in Doctor Strange. Remember, in the movie, Caecilius stole 3 pages from the book that allowed him to open a door to the Dark Dimension. Those pages are actually seen here in this episode, and the symbol is the same one that appeared on both his forehead and the Ancient One's. The Ancient One was able to live for centuries by using this book to draw power from the Dark Dimension, and it's likely that Cagliostro, or Oben, has done the same thing in this episode. In fact, this is what Strange has done, to live for centuries drawing power from these other mystical beings. In fact, you know what? It could even be that Cagliostro wanted Strange to end the universe, because it would allow Dormammu to take over this reality, and that he was actually manipulating Strange all along.
What?
The first creature that Strange summons is the same tentacle monster that Peggy Carter fought in episode 1.
The champion of Hydra has risen!
Later.
Now, we actually made a whole video about that beast, theorizing that it's the Doctor Strange villain Shuma-Gorath and the bad guy in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. But here's the thing, if that creature does live between realities, then it has the ability to cross into different multiverses. It could be that the only reason Peggy was able to escape was because in this episode, Strange weakens the beast. Also notice that he doesn't kill it, borrows some of its tentacles, so it could reappear in the live-action movies. Oben gives Strange some good advice.
It can shatter your mind.
And he immediately takes away the wrong lesson.
Maybe Obeng's right. If they won't surrender their power, I'll take it.
And then we get a slew of magical creatures, some from mythology, others invented for the show. The vampire gnome is something that I would fill my garden with if they sold them. There's a dragon that could be the protector dragon from Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings that protects our reality from the dark dwellers of another universe. And the raven with 6 eyes is your mom. When the Watcher talks about not interfering, we actually see him for the first time.
I could warn him, intervene. But the fate of his universe is not worth risking the safety of all others.
Now, this is actually a huge clue about where the series is going that I'll talk about later in the video. Every time Strange absorbs a monster, he briefly takes on their appearance, to show that he is slowly becoming a monster as well. It's not subtle, but with animation this great, it doesn't have to be. And then we get the episode's twist, the other Strange. He sees that his universe is actually dying. Now notice the way people disappear from reality is just like when Wanda's TV reality evaporated in the final episode of the show. Thanks Aaron Varola on Twitter for that catch. Very cool. Will Watkins on Twitter, who's also a very funny comedian, pointed out that when this animated universe evaporates from existence, it looks like ink, as opposed to the dust in the main MCU. Then the Ancient One shows up.
A psychic impression sent through a splinter in reality.
So, here's what's happening here. When Strange kept going back in time, he was traveling to a period when the Ancient One was still alive. That's why she was able to meet and do battle with him. Now what we're seeing here is an extension of that consciousness. The splinter in reality that she talks about is the crack that Strange made with his multiple trips in time. Think of it like he pried open a hole in time that allowed the Ancient One to project a copy of her consciousness into the future after her death. So she split reality into 2 timelines contained within a single universe, which is also very interesting. Up until now, we've talked about timelines and the multiverse like they were interchangeable.
The Infinity Stones create what you experience as the flow of time. Remove one of the stones, and up close splits.
So remember those little individual timelines in Loki's last episode, the ones that were part of the sacred timeline? Those were all their own universe, part of the multiverse. The Ancient One essentially split one of those timelines into two universes. Maybe this was similar to the Nexus events in Loki, except these two new timelines are not diverging. They're still rubbing up against each other because she was the one who created them. And to illustrate this, Strange is easily able to travel from one timeline into the other, an ability we haven't seen him use before. The Ancient One places the protection spell of the Vishanti on Strange. These are the gods who are like the guardian angels of the Sorcerer Supreme. And then we get the big matchup, Strange versus Strange. This whole sequence was great, and it's not the first time Benedict Cumberbatch has played against himself. He also voiced Dormammu.
I've come to bargain.
You've come to die.
Cape fight. Oh, but that little cape scream. Very sad. And then Evil Strange wins. Now, I thought this misdirection was great because I assumed the shadow was just the Watcher because we're used to seeing his silhouette pop up in different places.
I know that show you wet anywhere.
So, when Strange uses the evil magic of Cagliostro, the runes around his arm turn red. That's always an indication of evil magic, but it's also the color of the chaos magic of the Scarlet Witch. This is very interesting because remember that her powers are rooted in the ether and the ability to remake reality. Agatha even warned,
You have no idea how dangerous you are. It's your destiny to destroy the world.
and we're seeing that play out here. So, Strange is no longer a man. He's an amalgam of the different beasts that he's killed. And of course, she's afraid of him.
It's me, Christine.
Oh my god.
So as reality crumbles, Strange addresses the Watcher, now in his corporal form.
Honestly, if I could fix this, if I could punish you instead, I would. But I can't interfere.
And this is some dark, dark stuff. In the comics, the Watcher's constantly breaking his vow to not interfere, and I think that he eventually will in this show. There is a run in the What If comics where the Watcher recruits Nexus beings to save the universe and the Timekeepers. See, a Nexus being is the linchpin of their reality, exactly like all the characters that we've met in this show. Each reality was created because of a decision they made. Remember when Uatu said,
I could warn him, intervene, but the fate of his universe is not worth risking the safety of all others.
This is because he needs this version of Strange to help him later on. Eventually, he'll recruit him to join with other heroes and form a multiverse Avengers team. So, the episode ends with Strange creating a small pocket mirrorverse where he can live out his days looking at Christine's corpse. This is also symbolic of the mental prison that he's made for himself, where he shut out everything else in the world to only focus on her death. Well, that's all the Easter eggs that I found, but if you found any, let me know in the comments below or at me on Twitter. And if it's your first time here, please subscribe. For ScreenCrush, I'm Ryan Arey.